Hi, everyone. Welcome to Youth Connections Café. My name is Lynne McIntee. I'm your host today. Would like to do a shout out to Youth for Change Canada for allowing Youth Connections to be on this platform and engage in a safe space and creative conversation. We're all about connecting, creating, and inspiring the youth of today. And we appreciate you being here and joining us. I have an amazing guest speaker. We're actually talking about entrepreneurship. And I have Kyle Monczak, who is from BITS, Business in the Streets. And he's going to be speaking to us today about entrepreneurship, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. Don't forget to follow us on social media, give us a like, and if you have any ideas for programming, we would love to hear from you. Maybe you'd like to get involved, engage in volunteerism, whichever in the community, or there's a topic matter you would like us to cover, and we'd be more than happy to do so. Once again, my name is Lynne McIntee. You're here with Youth Connections Cafe, and thank you to Youth for Change for allowing us to be here. Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks for having me, Lynn. Excited to be chatting with you today.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And Kyle, I'm inspired with your energy. So, right off the bat, I would just like to emphasize that to our listeners and viewers who are tuning in. Sounds like has a lot going on. Sounds like Kyle has a lot going on. And one of the reasons I really wanted to have a conversation with him and Youth for Change and Youth Connections was to talk about entrepreneurship, because that is definitely your thing that you're doing over at BITS. And I wondered if you could tell us just a little bit about yourself, Kyle, firstly.
Yeah, sure. Kyle Monczak. I'm the executive director of BITS. I've been with BITS for it was 10 years as of May. So I've been doing this work for a very long time. And BITS has only been around. I'm not the founder. BITS has been around since 2011. We had a pilot. So I joined the organization shortly after, very early. I had no business at all being in entrepreneurship. I remember actually sitting in my grade 10 class, for any of the, I don't know the age of your listeners necessarily, but grade 10 class where the idea of entrepreneurship or what an entrepreneur was introduced to me. And I think all we were told about it is that these are risk takers. And they really are outside of kind of your status quo, and they invest lots of money to try to make things happen, and it doesn't always work out. And I remember thinking, well, I have no interest in being anywhere near entrepreneurship. What a dangerous career that would be. There's nothing more I would love than just a good bit of stability. And I would say, that's definitely, I would say, not where my career has taken me. It's definitely not what a lot of my work is centered around. But I'm fascinated with entrepreneurship. I've fallen in love not just with entrepreneurship, but with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial thinking. And so 10 years later, I'm still with this organization and looking to kind of like foster, really just help foster entrepreneurship for young people really across Canada.
That's amazing, Kyle. Thank you for opening the door for that conversation, because really, when you're going through your high school years, you're just trying to figure it all out and see where you fit in.
Yeah,
In this case, you are a fit for bits. So I just
absolutely.
really feel that from you. And I wondered if perhaps you can even just talk to our listeners and viewers about what is entrepreneurship, really, just understanding what that's about.
Yeah, well, and I think there's maybe one definition, which would just be almost, as I said, like really taking risk to create something that either wasn't there before, innovate on something that maybe does exist, to bring it to market, to make your products or your services available to others. At its kind of most lean definition, it's probably just solving problems. Really,
Mm.
that's how we try to think of it for a lot of the young people coming through. There's a lot through our programs, I should say. There's this weight that I think a lot of young people carry in trying to explore entrepreneurship, because it comes with this expectation that you're a CEO and you have staff and you have this really big vision. And within our little neck of the woods of where we play in entrepreneurship, as I like to say, it really is just about trying to figure out how can you solve a problem for somebody else and really be an agent of change in that way. So instead of solving problems, under the banner of as an employee, how can you lead that change yourself? Um, but it really comes down to how can you solve problems for others, and ideally, where are you passionate in that, and how can you bring your own excitement, passion, curiosity to that area of work?
Wow. So you feel like not everybody feels, in some cases they're an entrepreneur, but maybe they're discovering that about themselves, and they can certainly fit into that category. Because I wouldn't you say that everybody has the potential to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's probably two frames of thought on that. I mean, one is that we are very adaptable creatures. I know I definitely believe that. And there's a lot of change that I think, or I should say, no, from doing this work as long as I have. I mean, you watch people find their sort of entrepreneurial spirit as they go along. It's something that they don't quite understand in the beginning. There's often this, I have something I would like to see come to life. It could, in these areas of passion are so often things that we all find relatable. We get to engage with every day. It's fashion, it's food, maybe it's photography or other sorts of like creative services. There's this like area that I really want to spend my time in. And I don't know if I'm an entrepreneur yet.
Mm.
It's something that I know I'm excited about, but who knows where it will end up. And oftentimes through the process of trying to bring something to market, we end up falling in love with it. And before you know it, somebody just really feels that they want to pursue entrepreneurship. I do think there are a set of traits and characteristics that you need to develop. And I think sometimes people get there very easily, and sometimes it takes a little bit more work. Um, but ultimately, it's my belief that if entrepreneurship is something you're curious about, that you at the very least want to take a swing at it, because there's a lot to be learned through the process. And maybe it'll become a full-time business. It's something you'll do forever. Maybe it's something you'll just do for a short period of time. But that regardless of whether you fully become and stay an entrepreneur, there's so much to learn and develop for your own personal sort of growth that we would say worth trying out.
That sounds really cool. I love your description of that. And if you're not necessarily becoming an entrepreneur, you could perhaps use those tools to enable and engage other people to maybe explore that avenue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Could you walk us through, I guess, bits in general, business in the streets, and then perhaps where your role takes you and all of the things A to Z and everything in between?
Yeah, and just to clarify, is that for business in the streets and like a person going through our programs, or is that more for myself in my own role?
Thank you. Let's go with the person going through first, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So this
Mhm.
has been really fun because in the beginning, we really had just one program, and that program was really supposed to be we jammed as much into it as possible. We wanted to teach as much about business and help somebody do as much through entrepreneurship. But the reality is, entrepreneurship in the best case scenario is a very, very long journey. It's winding. It's not just one straight path, as in, like school will take us from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3. If we get a traditional job, maybe we start as a clerk and we work up to a supervisor and a manager. Things are very the directionality is very clear. You're going up hopefully in this one clean kind of like direction. Whereas with entrepreneurship, you're going in all sorts of ways, and what you think is progress one day might feel very different the next day. And so with our programming, we've really tried to build out from that first beginning sort of origin program and offer really a full suite of different opportunities and engagements and activations to help somebody really go through the stages of entrepreneurship. And so we have everything from our like initial ideation workshop, where we help you to sort of explore what your idea could look like if you step back and think not just what interests you about this, but going back to that initial definition, what is the problem you're looking to solve? So I love fashion. Maybe I would love to be a designer, but what sort of challenges are my clientele facing that I can really solve for them to help people think more concretely about not just what do I like, but where is their need and where is their demand. So that's sort of where people might begin with us. Really, our first full program, our flagship program, is our YCEO program. This is 8 weeks long. We provide people with access to mentorship, training, usually from an entrepreneur facilitator. That program, like I said, is 8 weeks long. You're building out your idea there. You're starting to get into the weeds about, where is there really that demand, and where am I seeing it from my customers that I can really offer something of value. So hopefully we're actually encouraging people to step outside of their comfort zone, talk to potential customers, talk to maybe their other partners that they might work with, and really start to actually bring this product to market. From there, we have more programming. We have our boot camp, which is really for people who already have an existing business and are now ready to scale it up. And then that whole sort of ecosystem has funding opportunities baked in. There's grants. We have microloans that we offer. There's other events like our shoot day event we just hosted, where we're helping young entrepreneurs to get access to headshots and product photography to really build out their online persona. So, those are just some of the things that we do. We're always looking for new ways to really support our community, because at the end of the day, for us, because entrepreneurship is such a long road, if everything goes according to plan, we're going to be working with you maybe for a couple of years. And so we're always looking for new ways to add value to our community and just better support them along that journey. So that's a little bit about what we do. And then, there's always more to come, I hope.
Sounds like really extensive, Kyle.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a lot of our young people, 14 to 29, is sort of what we target, and our
Yep.
focus is marginalized population.
Right.
So I wondered if I could speak to that for a moment. How accessibility, inclusivity,
Yeah.
and reaching the marginalized population to unravel
Yeah.
all of these wonderful ideas that may be simmering.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so what I haven't discussed yet really is kind of like how who we're really serving as an organization. And you mentioned marginalized population. For people coming through BITS, typically everybody's going to be facing income barriers, which really is really important in entrepreneurship because most entrepreneurs start with some amount of capital that they're investing into their business, and our entrepreneurs that are coming to bits don't have that opportunity. They're really starting from scratch, which is why those funding opportunities that we offer, although they're small, are crucially important because time and really that capital, the money is just not there. So we that means not only do we have to make sure that capital is available, but we also have to help the young entrepreneurs in our programs to come up with ideas and plans that are actually action oriented, that in a way that they can deliver on. So if the starting business requires $100,000 to get off the ground, that's not an idea that we would encourage any of our community members to explore. So instead, a lot of the work that we're doing at BITS is to step back and say, where can we begin? So if it's not opening some manufacturing facility or opening, very often opening a boutique storefront somewhere
Mm.
because a lease is just going to be outside of the reach. Where can we begin? Can we start going to maybe farmers markets or other sort of pop-up shops? Could we take other ways of um, expressing what we want to do, maybe through some sort of a video? There's lots of different software now that are free to use that we can help us to kind of prototype our ideas and showcase what we're looking to do, just to see how much interest is this gaining, and if I do put any amount of money into an idea, how much can I expect to get back? So trying to help our community members to take those sorts of or rather I should say, evaluate those sorts of opportunities before they go and invest their time and money, because that's so limited. So our programs are really built to provide those sorts of values. So the training starts from, like, if you don't have post-secondary education in business, not a problem. We're going to start from the very, very beginning. The mentorship that we provide, oftentimes we're looking to work with mentors who may also come from some of those marginalized backgrounds, that will understand the experiences that our participants are kind of dealing with. Maybe they're the first in their family to enter some sort of an industry or a sector. So how can I be connected with somebody who's actually done that before? So I feel like kind of heard and understood as I explore this new avenue. So those are just some of the ways that we try to work and support the entrepreneurs that we're engaging so that they are um, really not so isolated in that journey that they're taking.
Hmm. Wow. So how do you find the mentors actually?
Yeah.
How do you match them up?
I mean, so our mentors come from a whole variety of different channels. I mean, sometimes they are working professionals. RBC, for example, is one of our major supporters, as is TD Bank, and really some of the a variety of sort of like larger corporations. They help us to conduct our outreach really by finding people in those institutions who care, who are looking not just for a resume piece for themselves, but who want to give back in some meaningful way. And oftentimes, although their journey is as a young professional, not an entrepreneur, they've had to navigate similar sorts of conversations about being that first person in their family or stepping out of their comfort zone to explore something that they didn't feel that they could ever do or be prepared for. And so our team does a really good job of not just kind of welcoming those sorts of applications, but screening and preparing our mentors as they get onboarded into this organization to support the programs. But like I said, we have entrepreneurs that or volunteers that come from other sorts of areas as well, and entrepreneurship is definitely one of them. Nobody quite understands what we're doing like somebody who has actually done it before, and so a good bout of our mentor base are entrepreneurs themselves as well, and they come from all sorts of backgrounds. They could be in similar industries like food and fashion. Sometimes they have tech-based businesses as well, or consulting companies, public speaking companies, and so. our mentors really come from a wide sort of diversity of backgrounds, especially with respect to the type of work that they do. But what's common between them all is that they really want to see you succeed as an entrepreneur. And so they're there to help you really bounce ideas off of. And, I think this is really witnessed best by the feedback we receive from our community. If you look at, I mean, you go to our Google, for example, look at the reviews that are out there, you will most commonly see that the main value that our participants are taking from the program is really having a chance to speak with somebody who genuinely is curious about your success. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you have your those who are closest in your life are just really biased. Either they want what's best for you, but sometimes for them that means something that's really safe. And so no matter how good your idea is, it's like, well, why don't you just get a job that feels, safe and secure? Or maybe they're your friends and there's no idea you could say that's so crazy. They're going to be backing you up 100% no matter what you do. And so it's hard to sort of get that unbiased opinion. And that's really what our mentors are there to do. They want to see you succeed, but they're also going to be there to say, well, what is informing this idea and how thorough have you thought through some of these things? And I think for the participants coming through our program, it's really refreshing to have that sort of new perspective on their ideas and where they'd like to take themselves. So.
Hmm. Kyle, would you have an example of a case, I guess, in this case,
Yeah.
what would be a success story?
Yeah, I mean, so let me see if I can give you something like short enough because,
Yeah, sure.
but also I think accurately depicts what the entrepreneurial journey looks like. So let me see if I can do this as quickly as possible. And I'm going to choose somebody who I know very well, and his name is Hamza Fasi. If anybody goes to our team page, Hamza is actually one of our facilitators currently. And I
Yes.
love Hamza's story because it is the true winding journey of entrepreneurship. So I met Hamza now, what's been many years ago, it's 2017, I think I met Hamza. So it's been a hot minute. But Hamza came to business in the streets with his idea to be a personal trainer, something that, is quite common and has been done before. So in some ways, there wasn't a ton of questions. But as Hamza explored becoming a personal trainer, what he realized as he looked towards his friends most closely to him is that there are real challenges that people have with personal training. It's expensive. I mean, that's really one of the biggest pieces. Personal training can be really expensive. But as somebody who was a really good educator himself, he really loved to teach people. He actually found a unique way to solve the problem of needing training services by actually teaching people to kind of how he described it, become their own personal trainer. So I'm going to teach you the things you need to know so you don't need to pay for this service. That's where we met Hamza.
Wow.
Hamza would launch this idea. He'd have some success. Ultimately, what he learned is that if you teach people to become their own personal trainer, they don't really need your service anymore because now they need to do their own thing. So, as a business model, wasn't the best thing for him. And so, after some amount of time, he ended up changing directions. He
Mhm.
went to use his sort of passion for education, and he would now launch a new service that was really more focused on, instead of like his own network, his own circle, he would focus his business on employees and actually target corporations to do sort of employee training. This is during the time of the pandemic, so that already threw some spice into the mix for him, and he had to figure things out brand new for himself, especially in that new environment,
Yeah.
especially with the personal training, which is such a physical
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
service, right?
Yeah.
And that where he would help employees is to actually working from home, be able to approach fitness in a way that would keep them, what do I say, from being hindered from just working at a laptop all day. So that
Mhm.
was how he sort of pivoted his business. And he ran around that for a couple more years, and until he found that it wasn't something that he was really passionate about in the end. And I think this is why, Lynn, I like the story because you asked in the beginning, like, can somebody become an entrepreneur, or is it something they're sort of born with? Is a common question, and I would say Hamza was trying to answer that question for himself over many years because he knew he liked fitness, but did he like entrepreneurship? And he would eventually find that the answer to that question was yes, especially as he launched version, I would say like almost 3.0 down the road, where he realized it wasn't actually fitness that he was passionate about. It ended up being education and teaching others. So what
Mm.
Hamza does today is he helps YouTubers to launch their careers, or rather to grow their careers by finding them brand deals and sponsorships, so that they can continue to do the thing they love, which is to create content on YouTube. And this, you would argue, has nothing to do with fitness whatsoever. But if you follow Hamza's journey, and he was, I think, really brought the right amount of curiosity about what is driving me in this way. What do I find really like lights me up about this? And it was always about teaching others and educating others. And so even though the arena that he's playing in, it's no longer fitness, it's all about content and YouTube creation or content creation. You can really see that the through line through his ideas, and really along the way, Bits provided him with the training and the mentorship as his idea grew. We did provide him with some funding as well. And as a result, now Hamza comes back and he actually teaches our momentum program. So we love to see that.
That's an amazing story. Hamza, if you're listening, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, what a story and what a winding road, but to get to where you are. And for any of our youth listening and tuning in, you just never know where it takes you. You're carrying around a toolkit all the time. You're sharpening your tools at different times. You never know what tool you're going to need. So that's an amazing story, Kyle. Thank you for sharing that. And I
Yeah.
did notice your website. Once I noticed the reviews, yes, and then also the team that you have as well. So Hamza for sure was highlighted on there. What about yourself, Kyle, in terms of your work that you do as executive director? And where do you
Mm.
find that that takes you? What's your day look like? Honest to goodness, it seems like it's pretty busy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Lynn. It changes a lot on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that helps to create some consistency in the workflow is that we do run these consistent programs. We do run 3 intakes a year of our core programs, which adds that sort of consistency. But my job as executive director is really to understand and really listen to my programs team who's working on the ground to hear about what are the challenges people continue to face. Like, are our programs hitting the mark, or where might there still be some gaps? And really try to go out and find the support that we need to make to either improve the intervention that we offer, or to grow and add and build that suite, because we're really on a mission right now. And that mission is to help any young person, regardless of your background across Canada, to be able to explore the value that entrepreneurship has to offer. We think that entrepreneurship, kind of as you mentioned, is a tool or a vehicle for self-expression, for leadership and growth, and that personal development, for economic development. So we really believe at Bits entrepreneurship is one of the best vehicles kind of a young person could tap into. And so we want to make sure we're able to support as much of that journey, as we like to say, from ideation to operation. So we want to be able to provide that full suite of programming. We're doing a really good job on continuing to build that out. Right now, most of our impact is made around the Greater Toronto area. We're just now beginning to expand to Ottawa. So a lot of my work last year took me around, where was that next place that we really wanted to kind of explore and bring our programming towards, and how are we going to line up the right opportunities to make that happen. So a good deal of my time is spent fundraising and trying to get the word out about what we're looking to do, and the support we need for that, aligning partners to actually help us to deliver in that way. So I used to be in our programs. I've done it all. I've done from like kind of recruiting for our programs and making sure people know about them, to facilitating. I used to teach some of our programs. Boy, was that probably not the best decision, because I'm not an entrepreneur myself, and so I was only so qualified, I think, to do that. But now we get to work with amazing people like Hamza and others who have really walked that journey much closer than I. But I ran our programs, and today I'm more focused on making sure that our programs continue to run, that we add more to sort of this suite that we're able to do. And I've been doing that now for a couple of years, and I love it. I love what I get to do every single day, and I love that I get to be surrounded by people who are curious and passionate about entrepreneurship and supporting entrepreneurs. My team is amazing.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes I'm just working with them to make sure that they have everything they need to do their work. And yeah, it's a very fulfilling role. I'll say that.
It really sounds like it actually. And so you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur to be affiliated or connected to this type of movement, I guess, if you will.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so
definitely.
would you say that you're a leader in terms of education? Because that's what I think I'm getting from you, that you have so much to bring to the table, and all of these skills that you offer. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would definitely say. I mean, education is kind of our bread and butter, and I think one of the things that I really haven't had the chance to speak to, but if you don't mind, I'd love
Yes,
to share
please.
some of the philosophy on kind of our approach to education, because I can say for myself, I've had two very different experiences with respect to education. I have been a grade A student. I have, been top of my class, whether that is specifically in the bookended parts of my educational career in both elementary school and college. I was very curious about education, about my own education, and I had the identity of being a good student. However, in high school, that was not the case. My grades were almost impressively poor, and I saw how that shaped my identity as a student as well. And so I bring both of those experiences to sort of the BITS classroom and how I inform and shape the education that we offer. And one of the things I really like that we do at BITS, specifically in our YCO and bootcamp programs, is we do have a facilitator. They're an instructor. They're the ones who create our lesson plans and actually teach our classes or courses. And there's the participants who are the students. They're the ones who are bringing their ideas to the classroom that are being shaped and considered and explored. But we actually have a third party, and that is, as you mentioned, our mentors. And the unique thing about our mentors is they're not just your mentor outside of the program, where you learn and you explore, and then you bring a separate conversation to your mentor. Those mentors are inside the program. What that means is that while we're teaching, if there's a concept that you're stuck on, instead of just waiting till the end of the class or after class, where maybe you can get a minute with the instructor to ask something that you're maybe a little bit fearful of could be judged if you asked it publicly. We work with our mentors in small group settings. So our mentors will work with 1 to 3 participants on average, and they're going to work with those individuals to really tailor those concepts to their specific idea, so that if there's something you're not picking up or you're not quite sure you understand it, they're there to kind of be your backstop to make sure that nobody leaves that classroom with more questions than answers, and that you actually feel like at the end of each Saturday session, which is when we teach our classes, that you are walking away more confident, more certain of your ideas and kind of what's the next step for you. And that's really been informed by my own experience of like what worked. What I think I wish I had when I was in school. And I think it's one of the reasons why our programs are really as beloved as they are.
hmm Thank you for sharing the personal experience. Coming from the education field myself, I totally appreciate that. And all different styles of learners, and you're really looking for the left and right brain learners out there, because it really does make up our society, and it's very important to meet the needs in the education field. I truly believe in mentorship, and I believe it starts very early on in life. And I think that we should all have a cheering section, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very, very much so.
so to speak, yeah. And whatever road that takes you down, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But because you have that cheering section, because you have that network, you have that safety net, you can build that confidence to utilize the skills that you do have to bring to the table. It sounds like it really super cool, super amazing. Do you get an opportunity? You mentioned Ottawa. There's a newcomer program sort of for pop-up shops. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Actually, I'll send you the name once I, go back and find it. But it interested me because of newcomers and utilizing, community for sure, engagement, but utilizing their ideas as newcomers. Um,
Mhm.
and offering their services, whatever that may be, whether it be in the arts or other things of need in the community. So it's in the Ottawa region.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I've not heard of this. No. If you could send it along,
Yeah.
please
Uh,
do. So pop-up shop. So it's not just a specific location. There's multiple
yeah.
locations where this happens.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just send you the link and you can do your own thing with that. And but
Great.
it interests me for sure because I was looking for something in the Toronto region and there
Mm,
wasn't of that.
really?
Anyhow, it started a conversation with them in Ottawa there. But long story short, Kyle, are you from the GTA or?
I'm not from the GTA, so I was born and raised in Windsor. So
Yeah.
I know the outside perspective of Toronto, which is one of the things I'm trying to bring to as we bring our programs to new communities. I think I get to bring a little bit of that context. I have lived in Windsor. I've lived actually in Vancouver for a short period, but no, I've been in Toronto now for 15 years, give or take, so quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what was your background then to bring you to BITS, if you don't mind me asking?
Listen, I love this question, Lynn, because it's something that I think I avoided sharing in the past, not out of any like embarrassment or not thinking, I just think it wasn't relevant. But I now look at my career at Bits and see kind of how much it's shaped. So I started, and this is where I mentioned about my own educational career. So I did a little bit of post-secondary and then didn't finish. And instead, I was working in hospitality at the time. serving, bartending, kind of managing in restaurants. And I really loved that energy. There was something that was so enthralling about just being, every evening you have people coming in who are just looking to have a really good time and kind of like unwind after a stressful week. And I got to play a role in helping them do that. And it was something that I just absolutely loved, which is another reason why I said to you at the beginning, like I had no business being in this career or this field whatsoever. I did end up going back to school for project management and business, and that helps me now. But I actually think it's that experience in hospitality. Part of my story I will sometimes share with bits is I remember the first time I walked into a classroom after my college career. So I hadn't been in hospitality for a couple of years. And I remember thinking, this is like, although I'm in a classroom, I haven't felt this sort of like energy and excitement since my time in hospitality. And I think it was just that sort of spark for me that said something is happening here that is worth leaning into and worth like investing more of my interest and time in. And I think that's one of the things that really, I think, differentiates what we're doing a little bit, at least within the educational space, is people are bringing their own ideas to bits. So they're
Yeah.
very excited about that. But nonetheless, yeah, I had many years spent before bits in hospitality, and I think it really helped to shape how I approach my work at bits.
No, it definitely sounds like it for sure. And I think that a great value that goes with hospitality for sure, and all of the things that you bring to the table. Certainly myself working in the education field, I find it empowering to lift each other up and shine light on each other. So that's my shtick.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I
love
do.
that.
Yeah, no, really. And it's a moment in time with each person. So it's a bonus because you're learning and growing along the way. And if you keep yourselves open, and when we're talking with our youth, keep yourselves open. You never know what you're going to learn along the way, and keep your ears open as well. But for myself, it's underscoring mental health and balance because it's in our community, and hosting actually, and podcasting and event planning and all of those things. They're all tied into education because I think we're all educators in life.
Mhm,
Really, and I don't know if people place value on that for themselves and what they can teach another, but I
mhm,
truly believe that we come to this world for education purposes, right? It's a moment if you keep your eyes and ears open. So, for myself, festivals, I really enjoy that. And I enjoy interview opportunities to grow. But again, it started with education. I worked in banking and all kinds of different things like that.
okay.
They're all stepping stones. They truly are. And I think more than ever, we underscore mental health and all of the work that we do.
Mm,
So with your work at BITS, how important is that to recognize that with everybody that comes through the door, because everybody has a story. And you were speaking to that to some degree, but I wondered if that is a component that you can teach.
mm.
Yes.
I'm going to go out I'll approach this conversation aware of sort of the risk because I'm not a mental health professional by any stretch.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think mental health and sort of our own understanding and self-image, it plays a really big role in what we're doing at Bits because going back to what I said about this is not a linear path.
Mm,
We're not to say, actually, I wouldn't say we're not designed for it, but we're not prepared for entrepreneurship well because we're so used to a set cadence towards progress. So every year in school, I advance to the next grade, hopefully, and this helps set me up for very clear sense of direction and progress in my life. And I think that's one of the reasons why young people, I'm sure, feel a certain sense of fear and unease and anxiety about the future is because after school, um, I don't think progress feels as clear as maybe it did for past generations. And I think that's one of the reasons why young people feel that level of stress is okay, so I have until I graduate college or university. Then what? Like, how do I find success after that? Knowing that there are stories of people out there just a number of years ahead who don't quite know what they're going to do or where they're going to go. And so that same sort of anxiety, I think, is common in the young people who are coming to explore entrepreneurship as an option. And so there's many reasons why I think mental health becomes really important because one of the things we like to say is, in the beginning of entrepreneurship, like you're the business, it's you personally doing it. And so as much as you want to spend your time and attention invested in developing the business, you really want to make sure you're doing the same thing for yourself. So you know,
mm,
um, this is something that we haven't yet done.
Yeah.
But one of the things our team has talked about is how important, I was going to say how great, but how important it is that we start to integrate other components of well-being into sort of our suite of offerings. And so, could we host more events where, I don't know, we practice things like breath work or yoga or movement, or just being more aware of really the engine that is driving this business, which is yourself, right? So that I think is in the cards for future. That comes down to, that's another example of one of my jobs at Bits, is to now go find out how do we make that happen actually. So that's a probably really real example of, in the next couple of months or maybe even years, about how we'll start to integrate more of that. But I will say we're very, very fortunate, and I really have the absolute privilege to sort of share that one of the newest partners we welcomed this year was Green Shield. And one of the things that Green Shield is making available to our community are 5 hours of CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was something that really came out of left field, and we were so fortunate to have found and learned about. And we know already we've seen the number of our community members who are tapping into that service and opportunity, because I think therapy and CBT has gone from something that would be like, in extreme situations or circumstances is something we'll use, to really just a tool that can be used on sort of day-to-day life as you explore and sort of are stepping outside of boundaries and dealing with really life circumstances, to have somewhere to engage in conversation, help to like digest the challenges that you experience on a day-to-day basis. So that is something we've just been able to offer our community members this year. And, I'm hoping we'll be able to offer hopefully ongoing. We'll see what happens.
Kyle, that's exciting.
Yeah, very excited.
Definitely, because learning to be present with yourself, but also present in space is so
Mhm.
really key to where your road will take you and what you're taking on, right? Let alone entrepreneurship as well, because you basically have to read the room. Yeah.
Very good point. Absolutely. Right. I mean, you're dealing with people all
Yeah.
the time in entrepreneurship, right? And those sort of relationships, and you're often putting yourself in stressful situations. Our programs end commonly with a pitch event where you have to speak publicly about this thing that you've been working on and where you'd like to take it. And for a lot of people, that's nerve-wracking and stress-inducing, right? So one of the challenges of entrepreneurship is there's so much benefit to be gained from walking this path, but it is a stressful one. But I think as a result of doing that, we hope to acclimatize young people to stress, because, oftentimes it says there's everything worth doing in life there's going to be some risk associated with it. You really got to put yourself out there. So how can we do it, to your point, Lynn, in an environment that is safe and inclusive, where I can take risk, but in a way that I know, the risk or the cost is only going to be so great. So I think that's one of the values, and one of the things we're really trying to do at Bits, is to kind of create spaces where that's possible.
Wow. Where do we go with this, Kyle? It's a great living room conversation, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Kyle's a great guest, so thank you very much for that. Kyle, I wondered if you could just speak to your own personal, maybe if you're comfortable with that, your family and the support and the path that you took. Did you get a
Mhm.
lot of support? Did you kind of go out on a limb and take a whole different direction? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So my dad was a traveling salesman of sorts. He worked in a few different industries. He's in pharmaceuticals for a minute, but he was also in like he did magazine ad sales. He's done car sales. He sold a variety of things over his career, and I've seen his career sort of wax and wane and go up and down over time. And I think that really helped inform what I expected for myself in my career, because I think that's one of the reasons I chose to step into this leadership position at Bits, is because I thought, there's this illusion I think that a lot of people will have, that if I work for somebody else, I'll be protected. Whereas if I work for myself, there's too much risk in that. And I think I learned, thankfully, from my dad, that nothing is a safe bet. And you really want to bet on yourself. I think in any situation, you want to empower yourself to be able to kind of make those decisions. So I really thank him for kind of showing me what that can look like. My mom was an assistant pharmacist, so she worked in pharmacy as well. Not how they met, ironically enough, but I will credit my parents to really. I think they just wanted to make sure that we were, as their kids. I have a brother and a sister as well. That we were progressing in some way. That we were really I think, I mean, I would say they definitely wanted to see us go into post-secondary, so we all have some sort of a diploma or degree, but they didn't place too much stress or emphasis on exactly what we did. It was more about just make sure that you're pushing yourself, whatever it is that you do. And I think you can kind of see that across, my brother and my sister. We're all doing different things. My sister's in education. My brother is in hospitality. And I'm doing now what I'm doing at Bits. But I think regardless of what we were doing, they're always sort of our cheerleader. And going back to your point, Lynn, about you said as mentorship, there's many things you could have said about mentorship. You define mentorship as having like a cheerleader behind you. And I think that's really one of the most kind of integral components of having a mentor, is that they believe in you and they want to see you succeed, whatever that definition is. And so my parents definitely provided that for me, and it's one of the reasons I want to make sure that anybody who comes through Bits has that sort of similar opportunity, I would say.
Mm.
Yeah.
What a gift, actually, from your parents, really, to instill that in you. And do you get a chance to tell them? Or
You know what, I have a call maybe to make after this.
oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing. That's
Yeah.
everything to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Kyle.
Yeah.
I know we have a little bit more time with you. I wondered if if someone wanted to, let's just say, sign up for Bits, and then maybe we can focus on some words of wisdom to wrap up our conversation.
Mhm.
But if someone wanted to explore Bits, how would they do that? What would be the first
Yeah.
step? Um, yeah.
I love it. So yeah, so depending on where you're at, I mean, I mentioned earlier on that we do have this workshop we'll sometimes run about really helping you to ideate. That's something that is not as constant an offering, and so I can't say exactly when we'll be hosting that workshop next, but ideally in the next couple of months. What I can say is our YCEO program is sort of really our entry level full suite program. It's 8 weeks long, and if you have really something you're curious about, just an idea, maybe an area you'd like to start in, like I mentioned, fashion or food or some sort of creative outlet. Maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe it's something boring, or I don't know, whatever. But if you're curious about it, all you need to do is head over to businessinthestreets.com, apply to our YCO program. We run these programs every couple of months. We run them 3 times a year. They're 8 weeks long. So there's usually some upcoming cycle. Our next one, we actually are kicking off our fall intake this coming Saturday on September 6th. And then our next intake will start in January.
Wow.
And those programs we have a remote offer. We're also going to be offering one locally in Ottawa, coming around that same timeline in January 2026. So I would say you can apply to that program. As long as you meet our eligibility criteria, you'll get an interview call with our programs team. And that is often where things begin, because even in that first interview, it's not just about, is this program right for you, but how can you be right for this program? So if your idea is one that maybe isn't the type of thing we would normally support. Like I said earlier, for example, it costs too much money to launch. That's not really our sweet spot. Our team is willing to work with you to help pare down or figure out how might you shape that idea so you can bring it to the program where we can kind of help you the most. And that's where I say we like to begin. From there, if that program works, there's many more things. As long as you finish the program, we consider you a BITS alumni, and that unlocks opportunities for other stuff further down the road, events, workshops, etc. So start there. You can also follow us at BitsTO on Instagram. I mean, we're also on LinkedIn as well, at Business in the Street. So I'd say follow us on our socials as well, because anything we have coming up that might not even be for our alumni, that are just open to any young person across Canada, that's where you can find out, what that looks like, and encourage anybody to get involved.
That is cool. How did you make the decision to go online with this offer?
Oh,
Um,
we didn't have a choice, Lynn. We didn't have a
uh-huh.
choice, like many. Yeah, it was a COVID twist. But what we found was we all of the programs we had offered previously were out of Toronto, which means if you weren't accessible to the GTA, you couldn't participate. So it really helped us to work with many more people across the country. It also helped prevent a 2-hour commute for some people to get to some, which was common. So if you were a young person, or maybe you had other dependents that you had to take care of, it just made our programs more accessible in that way. And one of the things that required was then we put more emphasis on other sorts of events and workshops so we can make sure people have other opportunities to connect, because now everything was virtual. So we've kind of adjusted what we're doing as a result of that. But very early on in the pandemic, we made that switch to going virtual, and we really haven't looked back.
Amazing. What about if a parent wanted to sit in on the programming? Is that possible?
It's not something that is entirely unheard of. We have opened up opportunities like that in the past. There's other ways, because we're virtual, we actually have some of our sessions in the past have been recorded. So if they were curious about something and wanted to learn more, that might be an opportunity as well. But I would say reach out to us and our team, and if there's some interest or need that you have, we're happy to do it everything we can. We don't like to have too much red tape everywhere. That's one of the benefits of being a nonprofit with our sort of a structure is, you tell us what you're looking for, and we're going to do our absolute best to help you.
That sounds amazing. How big is the team, Kyle?
We're growing. I mean, the total team, maybe we're around 10 people now. It's 4 full-time staff, soon to be 5 any day now, because we're hiring our Ottawa coordinator soon too. We have what is currently about to be 4 new educators. So these are people who lead our different programs, our facilitation team. And then we have a few contract staff as well. So we're probably coming up on around 10 people in the next couple days.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on that. So what do you look for in someone that is aligning themselves with bits? What are some key factors?
Well, there's so many ways to get involved in. I mean, I should say I just mentioned our sort of like staff team, but we have hundreds of volunteer mentors who get involved with us every single year. We have pitch day judges who join us to sort of like
Hmm.
really, I think, create that sort of who have to balance that role of being a judge, but also doing it in sort of an inclusive environment. And so, we have so many volunteers who join us in that capacity as well. And then there's even more people who sit on our loan review committee and whatnot. So our board members. But anyways, there's so many ways to get involved. All of those I just mentioned. But a few of the things that really matter is um, one, are you passionate about this? Are you willing to get passionate about it? And one of the language the phrases or adjectives I use in the job posting that just went out is servant leadership. Um, you
Okay.
know, it might also just be called hospitality in some ways that I would relate to it since before my time with Bits. But we are here to we're a community building organization. We're here to serve an audience who needs help. So um, sometimes that means you get beautiful emails that are written out to you that say thank you for this big opportunity, and that's going to be so rewarding in of itself. But not everything gets met with some big grandiose sort of like a sense of appreciation. So you're doing this because you want to see a difference made locally or across Canada, and you really want that to be sort of your leading um, your North Star, I would say, in your own life. So that is one thing that I think is paramount to working with Bits is that you want to see that difference, and we're really just a vehicle to help make that transformation. Um, and then, it depends on the sort of like opportunity that you're getting involved with. We'll look at other sorts of things, but a high degree of care, and I think a high degree of standard for yourself as well. We're trying to do something where we're really best in class. One of the proudest compliments I think that I received is that I I was hesitant about this program because it was free and you're a nonprofit. I've taken this program and I think it's worth however many thousands of dollars, which it genuinely is. If you look at how much in-kind value goes into running our programs, it's each seat is worth thousands of dollars, and I think people feel that way when they leave. And it's really a point of pride for myself is that people feel like it's a nonprofit, but I'm getting like executive level treatment, really. So
Oh, cool.
that's what we're shooting for here.
Oh, I love that. You should put that on t-shirts.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe that'll be in the future too.
Right.
Yeah,
Got the t-shirt and yeah.
yeah.
Kyle, if you were to give words of wisdom to wrap up the conversation, maybe perhaps, speaking to your younger self,
Mm,
or anybody else up and coming who is just really on the edge of maybe exploring and realizing the potential here. Any words
mm.
of wisdom you could give before we sign off?
I think I have. Lynn, I'll ask you. Do you have any siblings by any chance?
I do, yes.
You
Yes.
do. Okay. Are you younger or older?
Younger, yeah.
You're younger. Okay. So you tell me if this resonates at all. But I have 2 younger siblings. And I know to some degree that it's very hard to give feedback or instill sorts of wisdom because a lot of it is just learned by walking the path. I'll say that. Nonetheless, when I think that one of the biggest challenges that young people face ultimately is that they just haven't been around long enough and they don't really understand how time shapes things. And I think one of the biggest challenges I faced was sort of sometimes the pressure I would place on myself to want to see results sooner than really I was ready to see them, or it was ready to have happened. So I think, success is often born as a result of just persistence over time. Just keep doing something and give it your all and give it long enough. I think that's one of the things I believe about entrepreneurship is maybe you're not going to have a multi-million-dollar company, but I think if you approach something genuinely with curiosity and passion and you do it repeatedly day in and day out for what sometimes years, is you can't be unsuccessful with that sort of an attitude. So bet on yourself, stay persistent, and give it your all.
Wow. Kyle, we should carry you with us all day long. So it has like really been a pleasure to spend time with you and learn about you, but also learn about Bits and what Bits has to offer, business in the streets. And if anybody wanted to reach out to you, they could follow you on social media or, follow the website as well. The website's very good, by the way. I don't know how long it's been like that or who's doing your website.
Very well. We just revised. We just launched it at the beginning of this year. So shout out to Daniel Francavilla and his team. Daniel does. They did a wonderful job with the redesign. So thank you for that. We've gotten a few compliments lately. So thank you. It's greatly appreciated.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, it's really noticeable. So yeah, thank you for that, Daniel and team.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely reach out to you on website and or social media as well too, I would imagine, right?
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Please
Wow.
do.
And Kyle, it has been such a pleasure. We thank you so much from Youth for Change, but Youth Connections Cafe, allowing this safe space to have a conversation about learning and growing as youth and what tomorrow will bring.
Well, Lynn, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I love the conversation, and I love what you guys are doing over here. And I think this sort of a podcast and this format is excellent. So thank you for inviting me, and I hope to be back soon.
Thank you very, very much. Look forward to it. And shout out to Youth for Change for allowing us to be here. Bye, everyone. See you next time.